To start with, before we start adding a lot of stuff to our game, I want to show one quick change that I made, and it's under the dinosaur. And in a previous video, we showed how to make the dinosaur at the very end still be able to move around the screen and not kind of hit an invisible wall. And then if we started to go backwards, our dinosaur ended up right on the edge of the screen, touching the screen. And that was because our if then for that was touching screen, and it maintained that position. So instead of doing that, I replaced it with if the X position is less than negative 130, meaning the number is higher, okay? So again, keep in mind negative versus positive numbers. Because where it normally sits is negative 12. So I do let it come back like 1 pixel extra to make sure that that doesn't interfere. All right, so it's not quite exactly the same position, but what that does do, if I go ahead and go green flag, and I start to move along, and I decide to go backwards, you'll notice I don't come, I do have to go all the way to the end. Notice I added some clouds experimenting with some stuff. But as I come here, now when I go back, I have about that same distance. Okay? And for those that are interested in doing something like the clouds that I added, which do add a little bit of fun, what I did was I literally just put them in the costume. There's one of them right now, in the costume above the terrain where I want those to be. You would have to do some extra coding if you want those to be like move or come in at random positions, but just adding them to that, since this top part is transparent, does allow those clouds to come up. So feel free to do that with anything in the background, trees, mountains, anything you want to mess with to have the background change as you scroll by. Anyhow, we can go back to our code and we can go back to our dinosaur. And so now what we're going to do is we are going to actually make our obstacles active. All right, so right now, these little lava pits are just sitting there. So unless I actually touch it, it's nothing. And it's very easy for me to just jump over it. Again, this game becomes relatively simple. But again, it's to get the idea of the side scroller. So that's the purpose again. So what we want to do is we are actually going to add in a sprite to have a little lava ball that kind of like pops up. Think of it like the little lava pits burping a little lava up. And we're going to use the same color so that we don't have to recode any of this stuff. It still does exactly what we need it to do. It still removes lives. It still does any of that sort of stuff if we hit the ball that's popping up and down. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Paint a Sprite. And I am going to get the same red color as my, it doesn't want to do that. Anyhow, I know what red color it is. It's red all the way up for me. And then I'm going to use, now I could use a circle. That's a relatively easy thing to do. And in this case, I will do that. And if I hold the shift, it'll make a perfectly round ball. If you don't like the way that looks, okay, definitely keep it in the center. But if you don't like the way that looks, you can also get a paintbrush and kind of enlarge it or change it or make it a little bit more natural looking, especially on the bottom, which I'm going to go ahead and do just to make it look a little different. I'll also be able to make sure that it's turning around in this way. So that works just fine. I would suggest that after you make it, do try to size it so you don't have to use a set size block, because that will speed up your game, especially as you add multiple copies of this. So now I'm going to start my coding stack. I'm going to start with when the green flag is clicked. And I'm going to use a block we have not used before, and it's under looks, and it's about layers. So what happens right now is if I grab this, you'll notice it's over the ground, okay? And if it's over this, it's fine. It's kind of hiding. But I'm going to do some code so that it's going to go from a spot like down here up to a spot like up here. And by the way, I'm going to find out those numbers by dragging it. You can see right here, X is -8. And I think I might end up going with just X is 0. but then to have it go down, I get x is negative 132. So I'm going to probably use like between one, depending on how low your ground goes, I want this to very much make sure it goes all the way down. Okay, because I'm going to reuse this, by the way. So it's not just about this particular pool. So I want to make sure I get it coming very far down. So I'm going to probably use negative 130 to 0. Okay. I'm also going to leave this somewhere in there so I can get a good Y position. I'm going to do that actually as I restart because this position does matter. So I'm just going to put it there so I can find it. It's at 179. Okay, so 175. All right, those are what I need to know. But you can see, again, it's over top this, and I don't want it to be. So we're going to use go to the back layer. Okay, that way now, and I'm not going to let go of it. If I green flag this, let me stop and go. Since I'm moving it, okay, it doesn't do that because I'm stopping and moving it. But if I do this, click off of it, you can see when I green flag that, now it's behind. Okay, since I'm moving it, it won't show as behind, which is probably good. So there we go. Now, I am going to give this a command for a place to go. So I'm going to get the motion one, and I'm going to tell it to go to a certain place. So go to X and Y. Okay. Now my starting position, I said I was going to use negative 30 or 130. So that's good. Now X. X is interesting because what I want to do is I want to position this, and again, green flagged, haven't moved, scroll X is still 0. Okay. I want to position that, oh, and I lost it, at about 180. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab an operators block, and I'm going to say something plus 180. Okay, we'll talk more about how to change this in the future, but then I put my scroll X variable there. This is what I set as my X value. Okay, and so what that'll do is it'll make it go here. Okay, and this happens at the beginning. We're now going to throw a forever block in, because what we want it to do is basically bounce up and down. So under forever, I'm going to click show. The reason I'm putting show inside the forever block is that way if I leave and then come back into this space, it will the bubble or the lava ball will come back. So that's what I want to do. I'm going to have it point in the direction 90. I know it sounds kind of weird to use that direction, but if you think about it, that's the direction we're in now. That's the direction it's drawn so that the rounded part, or what I'm going to consider the front, is going up. Okay, so it's going to do that. Now we're going to use something that we used in other games where we do something and we repeat it instead of just going quicker. So we are going to use, and I'm going to grab it while I'm here, a change Y by. Okay, and we're not just going to put how I want, because I want to go from negative 130 to 0. So I'm going to change Y by 130. I'm not going to program that in. Okay, I'm going to change Y by 5. Okay, and what I'm going to do then is I am going to repeat that 26 times. Okay, because 5 times 26 will give me my 130. Okay, and that's exactly what I wanted to do. Now I'm also gonna, because you're gonna be moving around, you also want to set your X position at the same time. So I'm going to set X2, and I am going to copy this green block and put it there. Okay, this is basically the bounce up. And then I'm going to duplicate this because I'm going to do this twice because I want it to go that distance up. I want it to point in a different direction, which would be the exact opposite. So negative 90. And I want it to do this again, but instead of positive 5, it's negative 5. Okay? And what this does is this bounces. This should bounce it. Let me stop and start it again. There we go. Okay, it went up as I was doing that. So you'll notice that it slowly bounces up and down. Okay. And what you can do is you don't have to use the exact same numbers I do. Again, this how many times it repeats and what it changes by will control the speed of that. And one of the fun things to even maybe play with is if as I create multiple lava balls, maybe not all of them move at the same speed. That would be a great way to add complexity. Now, the thing about this is that this works pretty well. As you can see, as I move, it stays right in place with that because I tied it to scroll X. Now, the thing that does happen is after I go over it, now it stays on the edge. Okay, so that's not what I want to do. So to fix that part, I'm going to grab a when clicked and our favorite stack, forever, if, and I'm going to grab a touching edge, hide. What this also does is those ones that when we create duplicates of that, these that would be downstream won't be here at the edge bouncing up and down so that they can continue to be visible. So as we go and I jump over that one, it's now gone. It doesn't disappear. And if I come back, it's still there. If I then touched it. All right, so what do I do now to make this more repetitive? Okay, so I'm going to change this to lava ball 1, okay, which is a word I made up. And now I am going to duplicate this, okay, and then show you how to make the changes. So as I duplicate it, I now have lava ball 2. What happens to lava ball 2? It and lava ball 1 overlap. So that's not really useful. What I want to do is I want to put that in the second lava ball pit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get close to this and say, okay, scroll X needs to be about 700, 710 for it to be near the beginning of this. And this is a little bit of a guessing game. Okay, so I'm going to go to lava ball 2, and what I have to do is I have to change this plus to the same number that I want to try. So I'm going to try 700, and I have to do it all 3 times, 700, 700. Okay, so that's this one set at the position 700. Okay, that's not quite where I want it, so I'm going to now try 680. Again, you might see it starting to go up crooked, okay, which is fine. Now I've got it coming out more the back side of the pit, which is fine. Because what I'm actually going to do is for this one, I'm going to put 2 lava balls in this pit. So this one, then, I'm going to try at, the second one I'm going to try at 650. 650, 650, and I might need more of a gap than that. And green flag, oh, sorry, it's nice when it lets you do the same thing. So now what you've got is you've got 2 going at the same time. And for me, that's not really what I wanted. I actually want them slightly offset. So I'm going to pick one of them. So I'm going to pick lava ball 3, and I am going to throw a weight in there. Now the weight is going to happen right here, and I'm going to have it wait half a second. Okay, and basically what's going to happen is as they start, sorry, I do have to back again. As they start, you'll notice they're slightly offset. Okay, and that's fine. I can play with that some more. The weight does happen as this loops through. Okay, so if you but we do need to put it in there. You can decrease this amount of time so it's small, so they're closer together, and then they go offset. But this is a way to add a little bit more of a natural thing. Do you have to add this to every lava pit you have? No. But I definitely want to see you add this to some of them to improve or to increase the difficulty of the game, to improve the challenge. And that's a great way to make this a more challenging game and not so simple. And yeah, so you should be able to use that in your game.